Never forget that the court system and the way our system works in the United States is that we have open public courts. There are very few things, including even in the family court, that are private, where a courtroom might be sealed, and even then there's still a record. Even then there's still a transcript. Even then there's still a court clerk that has heard what's going on, and maybe even a judge's law clerk. So if you want total and complete privacy, you really need to resolve your case in a mediation session. As people have said to me over and over again, they're just not necessarily that anything personal will come out, but people might know what, the financial documents that have to be disclosed in court. Some clerk can look that up. Whether or not they're supposed to is a different story, but people somehow manage to get that information. If you're a celebrity, if you're somebody who is a member of a sports team or an actor, and people are just vicariously curious about what your finances are. If you're a CEO of a company, and maybe you don't want your specifics or the specifics of your contract that you negotiated to be attached as part of a financial disclosure in court, you want to keep that private, you need to be in mediation, not in the court system, because somebody can always get that. In mediation, everything is private. Even if I'm the homemaker who raised the kids and I just don't want my neighbors to know or people to gossip about me, or every time I go to a local diner that I'm going to run into maybe the judge or the clerk or the sheriff's officer that saw me there. It's a horrible thing to have to go through a litigation process and to have everything brought out. Your feelings are hurt, you're unsure of yourself, you're unsure what's going to happen in the future. And to have to spread all that on the record, as we say, to have to make that all public, it doesn't make anybody feel good. It makes everybody feel bad. So if I want to keep my private life private, I absolutely want to be in mediation. At the end of mediation, what we're hoping to do is to come to a memo of understanding, a property settlement agreement. If there's children, we're coming to a custody and parenting time plan. And those are the documents that we want to draft at the end of the mediation process. All of the notes, everything that was disclosed to the mediator, tax returns, financial documents, whatever it might be, even personal records of your children, all of those things are 100% private and kept sealed by the mediators. Remember, all of our mediators are lawyers or retired judges. So because of that, we understand privacy better than anybody. We absolutely seal those records. Nobody can get hold of it. The document that we come to, the agreement that we come to, that can be sent to the court and become part of your final judgment or your consent order with respect to your dispute. Thereby, it becomes something that is going to be court ordered. Everybody knows the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, whether we've seen it on TV a million times. So you have the right to remain silent. Anything and everything you say can be used against you in a court of law. Everybody knows that. It's a very American thing to know. In mediation is probably the only other place in the universe where it is completely private. Anything said in mediation and the entire process of mediation is completely and utterly sealed, so to speak. It's only between the three parties. The mediator can never say anything that was in mediation. The mediator can only report if the parties appeared and if the parties were participating in a mediation process. The parties themselves. Now, every state in the country has a little bit of a different statute, but every state statute mimics itself or mimics the other states. Every state has what we call a mediation privilege, where everything said in mediation is private. I cannot use it. I cannot say, well, he said in mediation that he had $50,000 in the mattress, or, she acknowledged in mediation that she spent money on her boyfriend. You can't say that. Everything is completely private, and none of those statements can be used in any further proceedings. When we're dealing with high-profile people, sometimes we deal with politicians, sometimes we deal with actors, musicians, people that have an internet or a media presence. They always come to mediation. There's no doubt about it. And it makes the most sense. Nobody wants their stuff Nobody wants, as a client said to me, and forgive me, the inside of my toilet. Nobody wants their badness to be out there where somebody else can find out about it, especially if I'm somebody who has a public presence, especially if I am the politician, the actor, or somebody that has a reputation that can affect my business in the future. The last thing I want is to have my personal life in a record where somebody else will have access to it. And quite frankly, even if I'm not the politician, the actor, the musician, the person who's the CEO, I don't want my personal life out in the universe. I don't want to have to talk about those things. I don't want to disclose what I have. Mediation always makes the most sense because of the privacy. And I'll give you another example. So in my practice and in my personal life, I find that people are more willing to talk to me about their sex life than they are about their bank accounts. It is just one of the things of human nature. People are very, very quiet about what their financials are. There is no circumstance in which I would want my financials or my sex life talked about in an open public courtroom, or to be cross-examined about it, or to have to answer questions about it, or to have it on a record where a law clerk who's all of 24 years old and just got out of law school might have access to it, where a court clerk who has no loyalty and no privacy and no particular, reason why they wouldn't talk about the fact that some celebrity politician musician was in court today. And guess what they said? Nobody wants to be gossiped about. We all want to control our own gossip, and we all want to control everything that people say about us. So the last thing anybody wants to do is to be in a litigation setting.